actually, if you build this backbone for artists in the modern world, so much good comes out of it.
I don't know if I want to call it a business because it feels like it's more than that.
This was done on $500 million. I can't do that. It's weird, but the future of the internet and internet filmmaking is in person. Yo, is your success luck or hard work? And I'm like, there's probably a third element, which is like the community.
Today on the Half Finished podcast, I have the honor of getting to sit down with Simon Kim, or as some of you might know him, Wholesome Simon. He is a filmmaker, storyteller, and also, more importantly, one of the founders of Creator Camps. So this conversation is split into two sections. The first part, we talk about Simon's own personal content journey from making mental health content to now storytelling and where he sees that going in the future. And the second part, we talk more about Creator Camps and their latest venture being Camp Studios. If you've never heard of Creator Camps, it's what I would consider the future of the internet. Taking this thing that used to be purely online and turning it into a real in-person experience, making it no longer so lonely, but all about community. And Camp Studios, their latest venture, is just another extension of that. Taking the storytellers we love on the internet and allowing them to make movies and actually put them into theaters. We get into all of this and more. This conversation actually ended up going a lot longer than I had originally planned. But if you're a creator like me out there, there is so many things that I learned from this that I think you guys will get a lot of value from as well. So before I keep yapping and telling you all the good parts of it, let's just jump right into it.
So all these things, Simon, how do you do it, man? Ooh, Simon,
Yeah,
welcome to the
I'm
pod.
excited to be here. This is sick. This is cool. I just met Sky like a few days back. But yeah.
That's a big question. You don't have to
Yeah.
answer that question straight away if you don't want to.
Honestly, like I think the coolest part of, growing up, I'd always created videos and we kind of like, had bonded over the fact that we've been doing this for a while. I think a lot of the people who are creatives like start at a very young age. And I think like one of the first things I did was in high school. I was like making gaming videos and then kind of like,
No way.
Yeah, it was, like Madden Mobile. And then that turned into a business of selling those coins online. It was very sketchy. It was like hackers in China, like flipping their coins through. It was this whole thing. But I think that was the first time like during high school where it was like, oh, like getting the first taste of like, okay, you can put stuff out there online. You can express yourself. I was very shy at the time, but like in these videos, I'm like freaking out and making these like stupid jokes. But then kind of also build businesses alongside it. And so that was kind of my first like, I guess, introduction to the online space in that way.
Yeah. So when you like kind of started posting these first videos, did you know or like have any inkling of like where this could go? Or was it more just like, oh, we'll just see what, like, it's just fun. Like, it's just for the vibes,
I think like there was this level of naivety. Like I was this very shy kid in high school, but like for some reason I really thought like I'm gonna be a great gaming YouTuber. Like I looking back, it was weird. Like, but I thought those videos would like go crazy, and like I had a lot of confidence then, probably more than I have now, to be honest. Of just like, hey, this is serious. I'm gonna take it seriously, and that kind of led into like for some reason I was like, before I leave high school, if I don't make videos and don't do this as a job or whatever, like I'm a failure. And so it's like this weird thing of like, okay, I'm just going to keep making videos until something works out. I don't know why. I think there's something wrong with me in that way, but like, yeah.
What was the point where you kind of shifted from making gaming content to kind of that first, I guess, next chapter of like making like the mental health stuff? Like what sparked that change?
Yeah, it was, so at the time, it was like my junior year of high school, and this is when everyone in the U.S. is studying for like the SAT, ACT, like going to university, that sort of thing. And I remember like telling myself before I graduated, like it was during that year, I didn't have any creative outlets, so I wasn't making anything. I was just like grinding, like studying, whatever. But I told myself like, hey, the next big thing, like I only have 1 year left of high school, the next big trend I'm going to hop on. I thought it'd be a game like Fortnite, but it ended up being like literally, I was like, I'm going to be a
Hey, we can play
YouTuber.
Fortnite later if you want. Like, I got you.
We're talking about V-Bucks really. But like, I think it ended up being TikTok. And so TikTok came out, it was like August 2020, 2019 even. And people were just making funny like meme videos. And I actually like, not a lot of people know this, but like I started on this account making like stupid like memes and funny jokes and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I got that to like 50K followers in the early days of TikToks by like literally spamming these like crass jokes and just like, and it's funny because none of this was like my personality, but it was me like trying to make it work. And then I remember I had been watching a lot of Montel Fisher stuff, and we talked about this earlier, but he's like a great musician now, and he's like a, a spoken word artist. And I remember the last video on that account was like so wild because it was all these like funny jokes about like crazy stuff, and then the last video was this like horizontal video that was like reasons to keep going, and it was such a pivot, but a lot of people resonated with it. So I was like, nah, screw that, we're deleting this account, we're making that a whole thing, because I think for myself during high school I had a really bad breakdown during that year where I was just like, it was tough. It was like on the I remember being on the floor of like my bathroom just like breaking down over all these expectations, everything. And after that I was like, okay, like let's try to like get a more positive message out there and like really impact people, and the way like Montel's work had impacted myself. So yeah, that's kind of a long story of how like that transition sort of happened.
How, like, talking about mental health, it's like a really hard thing to do because you have to really dig deep, get like super vulnerable. How do you like manage to, or how did you manage to do that? Because it's not everyone that would like go on the internet and be like, here's everything I feel. Like you're revealing almost like your inner self, and that's like a really scary thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think like it was more so a like an I need help type of situation where I feel like now looking back on it, there was a lot of just me like making messages for myself, or like more or less trauma dumping on the internet, or like getting it out there. But I think, I don't know, I've always felt, I think a lot of people feel this. I'm not sure how my attitude feels towards it now, but like sometimes for myself, it was easier to express those like innermost emotions to the internet and throw it into the void, than even like my close friends or like my parents or that sort of thing. I think you can argue that's not a great thing and you need to like work on that shit. And so, who knows how that's evolved. But I think for myself, it was really like, I want to get my feelings out there. Other people are resonating with it. So like, I'll do that. And that feels safe to me. And that feels like my space where I can, say those things.
Yeah. And it seems like a very natural evolution to kind of go from that, like the mental health stuff, talking about like inner feelings, to then like starting to like tell like stories and stuff like that. What made you want to make that change though? Like, why did you want to leave kind of the mental health side behind and then kind of move into this, YouTube new wave, as it's now called?
I think like, I realized I don't know like shit. Like that's really the realization it was. I remember having this Discord and there were like 10,000 people in there. It was during COVID and people were like, we had this whole ticket system. We had like mental support people who would come in and help people. And there were some moments in that where I was like, people really need help and this is great, but like I'm not a trained therapist. I'm like an 18-year-old kid with a Discord server. And I think at that point,
sorry, that's just like 18-year-old with a Discord server. Like there's just so many connotations to that idea.
No, literally, like me and Max, my friend, like we both ran Discord servers, and we have like PTSD. Like when we first met, that's one of the things we bonded over was like that notification that didn't on Discord. Like we're like, fuck no, because like it was stressful. There are weirdos in there, and like. But it was also like, okay, you're trying to help, but like I'm not a trained professional. I'm 18. Like, yes, I might be putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole, but like I think the biggest transition was me understanding like you can't help everyone. It's not even your place to do that necessarily. And then it was like, okay, like I can tell my story. That's what I can do. That's what I know. And that can potentially help people see in it, but I can't go out there and like be like, if you're feeling depressed, you should do this. No, it's more so like, I'm feeling depressed. Here's what I did, and then it's like that's a little more helpful. So that's kind of the switch that I made. Like I don't want to become like a Prince EA like guy that's preaching about like here's the motivational, because I don't know, and I was just a kid at the time, so that was kind of that switch into more of the storytelling stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You brought up a point earlier. It's like you wanted to like kind of make this switch, but you like had no clue how to do it. Like that's something I very much felt. I feel like a lot of us have like learnt everything off the internet. Is that like how you learn? Because like I look at your videos now and they are like masterclass in like how to tell a story and like how to make people feel emotions, everything. Is that like all just from like learning on YouTube and stuff like that? Or like, how did you get to where you are now being able to tell these great stories?
Yeah, I think like it's a lot of a feeling thing. We're just like consuming the right stuff. I think like the further along you get, you realize like as a creative, you have specific skills that are like they're like what you're good at. And what like it's easier to point out what you think you're not good at sometimes. Like I'm not good at like composition or like getting the prettiest shots or color grading. Even if you look at some of my old videos, like they're cooked, the colors are cooked. I like put film vision on there and like crank it up and like but exactly, like Sky, see, like
I'm
you
getting
you
PTSD
understand
from all the videos online.
like that's like me. But then understanding like, okay, what are you good at? I'm good at like finding good songs for moments and pacing voiceover with this to give someone a certain feeling. Like that's what I feel confident in. And so I think like just learning that over repetition. I remember when I first started on YouTube, when I met like Max and Ryan, my good friends who were like my first internet friends, I made YouTube videos. I was getting so pissed because I'd make a video and I'd be like, that was shit. But like I'm living such a great story. I'm like wasting this story. And that happened for like a year before I could make something that was like, okay, that was decent. So it's just getting those reps in for sure. Like, yeah, helped me get to that point.
To give context, like how much time do you reckon it was from like making those gaming videos to the point where you're like putting a video out and you're like, hey, this is decent. I'm happy with what I've made. How many years do you reckon that took to get
that was
there?
probably like 7 or 8 years probably.
Damn,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
There was one video I did about my gap year in college that like when that came out, I was like, oh, I'm proud of this one. And that was like a unique feeling. I've only felt that a few times, to be completely honest. And still, like when I make stuff now, it's like, shit, like it's a weird thing where you know you have to get back in the gym in a sense. You're like, your abilities caught up to your taste and you're like, okay, like I can chill, I can make a few videos like this, like they're good. And then your taste keeps going up and you're like, shit, like I gotta run again. So that's how that's the best analogy I could give for that.
Yeah, I think one of like the best pieces of advice like you can ever give to like other creators, like if you want to get better at something, just do it like so many times because like you get in those reps, you get in the gym, you build that muscle and you slowly just like improve at it. You kind of brought up that you had all these like good stories. How did you know they were good stories? Like what to you makes a story that you think is worth sharing versus like not?
Okay, this was interesting where I think a lot of times what I've learned if there's a concept that you deeply care about and understand and you explain it to someone who knows nothing and they understand it, then you got something special. And I felt that with like the YouTube New Wave. So like the story I was living was I set up this Discord server with a few friends who are making like meaningful stuff online, who are also weren't in school, and we decided to book an Airbnb. We got on weekly like accountability calls. Then we booked an Airbnb in Montana, convinced my parents to let me drive there alone, take the family car. And so we're in this like cabin in the middle of the woods. And every morning we're waking up editing, we're talking about like the future of like storytelling, this sort of thing. And we're all tied together by this idea that like, okay, a lot of the discourse, this was 2021, 2022, is like around treating YouTube as like, or these platforms as like media entities where you're trying to like optimize for these numbers. And so for us, it was like, okay, like let's get together and let's talk about like the French New Wave and like do this YouTube New Wave stuff, and came up with the name there. And like, I think when I was living that, I was like, oh, something's happening here. Because you could explain to anyone like walking on the street, like, hey, like I think actually like this pendulum's gonna shift back, and tell them like, oh, why don't you optimize for telling more meaningful stories that make someone feel something, they would understand it. And so like when I was living that, I was like, you're like 18, 19 in a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Like crazy story, but someone like pulled a gun on me too. This is a total random side tangent.
Okay, I'm gonna pause the like creator topic conversation. Let's get into the gun bit.
Oh, this is crazy. Okay, it's on video.
I'm back in.
We're like in the middle of Montana. This is like me, Ryaning, Max Reisinger, Natalie Lynn was there, and her friend Matthias that she was road tripping with. And this is Matthias's like first time in the US. So I'm like, oh, we're cooked. So she pulls up with her van, and you know the way
the classic van,
the borderless van, and we're at the top of this hill, and you have to drive down this sketchy like path to get to this Airbnb. So we're like, shit, like this van is like falling apart, like it's old, like let's park it at the top. And then this guy comes out, and he's like, who are you guys? Like he lives in the house up there. I start filming this. Actually, I think Natalie's filming it because it made a loud ass beep, and I was like, oh crap! Like, and he asked for our IDs. He's not a cop or anything.
Just like
he had this. It was crazy. He had this massive emoji on his, like he had a beer belly massive emoji on his shirt, and he has a like M16 rifle. And I'm walking out. I'm like, yo, chill. And he's pointing at us, like pointing it at us. That scared me. Like getting pointed at by a gun is crazy. this is like total like America's not like this like all the time, but like but yeah, that was like one of the moments that was crazy. That's such a tangent. I don't think I've ever told that story. But, like, I never told anyone because I was like, my parents would never let me like travel again after that, you know?
So
Yeah.
like what happened? Did he just like leave after
Yeah,
you
so we gave him
explained?
our IDs. And it's crazy because like Ryan and Max were in a car ahead of him. They just dipped. And so it's just me, like Matthias and Natalie, like in this van, just like with this guy pointing a gun at us.
Max and Ryan, what are you doing, man? What are you doing, guys? Come on.
Yeah. But no, that month was like very transformative. And I think you've probably felt this. It's the first time like when you meet someone. I'm sure you maybe felt this with Phoebe. Like this is the first time you meet someone where it's like, okay, cool. Like you get it. Like there's like 5 layers of context. I don't need to explain myself and you understand it, you know? And so that was very, I think for any person doing something different, like meeting other people that are doing something different is like always like, like this is really cool. So that was kind of what that month represented to me, I suppose.
Yeah, I think as well, like one of the biggest things for me has been because like especially here in Australia, like it feels, and I think you felt this as we were talking about this, you feel so like alone in it for so long. And then when you like meet those people who get it, it's just such a like it just fills you with energy and like the passion to make stuff that you don't really get. So yeah, that's something I really
like
appreciate.
it also lessens the cognitive load of like being here in Australia for context. Like I've been meeting with some creatives, and it kind of feels like what it was like in my journey a few years back, where it was like the first time meeting these people and like, oh crap, there's something here and it's so exciting. And like, I think also like meeting other people who like don't think you're crazy and you don't need to explain yourself. It's like all of a sudden you're capable of so much more because you don't have that weight that's in the back of your head that like, oh, like my people don't understand what I'm doing. Like I need to always explain it. You don't need to explain yourself for like doing what you do. And I think there is some level of like being able to continue to be creative and do what you do. And like, I feel like someone who has other people around them will be able to like do this for way longer, like objectively. And so it's been cool being here too, like to see that for sure.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, yeah, having that community around you prolongs like your ability to make stuff so much. Do you think like this is a very existential question, but do you think this whole YouTube new wave like space is still growing? Like, do you think it will keep growing, or do you like where do you see that going?
Yeah, I think like if I was to be honest, I think it's just one of those things that becomes synonymous with like, you know, like you can see the influence of what, I don't want to take all the credit for this because a lot of it was people just like taking it and running with it. But it's nice because you don't always need to point that back to like, hey, I'm part of this movement. Like it just happened and it became a part of culture. And now you open YouTube, like there's a lot of stuff in that sense of people like trying to make stuff in that feel. And I think it's just become synonymous with like what's out there and creating in general. I think a lot of like what excites us now is the evolution of that is a lot of these creatives who are making really great work and how can we, you know, break into film in that sort of route. And so
little spoiler for the next little spoiler for later in the episode.
Yeah. But like that's sort of the idea is like, you know, I think the evolution of the YouTube new wave ultimately is us going into film and creators going into the film space.
All right. So this is like something I really struggle with. And the last podcast I was actually a guest on, we talked about this as well, is like balance. Like you're obviously not like creating as much at the moment, but when you were kind of producing like heaps and heaps of YouTube stuff and also like running multiple businesses, like how did you manage to balance all of that? Like how do you like, I don't know how to do it and I would love to know how to do it.
I think like the only reason I was able to do that in the beginning was probably because I had 2 co-founders in Max and Chris. And Chris, like credit to him, like he took a lot of that burden in the beginning because Max and I were still making YouTube videos and that was our main source of income. And so I think actually it's more so of like this past year being like, oh, this is like camp. And now for the foreseeable future, it's camp. But still being able to work on those passion projects like the film I'm working on now about my friends and doing that. But you need to kind of set aside time. Like the thing about videos, or at least when you're trying to make something more emotionally resonant that you've probably felt, is like you need to focus on it all day because you can just procrastinate for 6 hours and get an idea and like that's good, but you need the 6 hours. And so when I was actually been working on this video for a year. When I was trying to work on it while building camp and doing the film festival, it was just not happening. It wasn't possible. And so now that we have this little break and I'm in Australia, it's like, okay, this gap, like I can finish it. And like actually we've been on full break, so I haven't been thinking about a lot of the camp stuff like or doing meetings or anything like that. And so I actually think like to do both is like almost impossible. It definitely is possible. I think for me it was very hard to like do both, and I don't know how people do that, to be honest, but that's something I'm still figuring out, especially for the near future of like what I want to do online and make videos and still have that drive for that. But understanding that like camp is now the main thing, and so there's always going to be a main thing. It'll never be two things that are like 50-50, you know.
Where do you see that future of your kind of content going? Do you think it's always going to be like just making the films that you want to make, or is like there's stuff? Do you feel like there's stuff left that you still want to kind of achieve?
I think like it's been cool because for a while, like when YouTube was the main thing, it was like, okay, you need to like do all the brand deals, like have these like schedules and stuff. But I think now the great thing is like working on camp, like it can be a full passion thing. And so I think I just want to move a little bit. Something I'm interested in is always like telling like longer stories about like specific things or themes. I think this is sort of the difference between how I see it now versus how I used to see it. How I used to see it was just like record everything, tell the story of every part of your life. And now I love like making videos about certain things. So whether it's a concept in camp that we learn, or whether it's, you know, this trip with my friends, or it's, for example, like this side project I want to explore, maybe it's like this camping trip, like make it more about something that's actually happening so that you're not always thinking about it. That's been really helpful for me. But I think like the biggest thing for me is like, also I talk to Max a lot about this, is like, how do you make content about like a business that isn't like, isn't like Iman Gadzhi like BS.
POV, you're an entrepreneur.
POV, you're an entrepreneur. And so like there's definitely some appetite for that. And I think that's a very hard line to kind of cross, but I find that fascinating of like, how do you make videos that are show building a business in a way where, because often people are like, business is the antithesis of art. It's like, how do you like kind of mesh the two? And so I find that kind of interesting, but I can't really predict.
Where would you put that business building content? Oh, that sounds so. Would you put that content on your channel, or would you put it on the Creator Camps channel?
Yeah, probably my channel. I think it's cool to show the personal POV of that. Yeah, like I think like even in that gap year video I did a few years back, it showed like the beginning of camp, and I think that feels like personal and like it feels accessible, and I think it would be on the personal channel. Is my thought. Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into the whole like business side. I feel like I could talk only to you about like being a creator, but Creator Camps is kind of where I really like know you from. Yeah. But before that, you've had like a bunch of other businesses. There's been a clothing brand and a coffee business and Creator Camps. Like, is there any I'm missing, or is that?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. I a lot of it. So the coffee brand is a brand by a good mentor of mine, Brian, and so he brought me on as advisor, and like he is like one of my, like, I look up to him in so many ways, as like a father, as like just a man. It's so cool. Like he's great, and so he's amazing. So he brought me onto that. And Creator Camp, the clothing brand was Keep It Wholesome, so that's when I was doing a lot of the mental health stuff. It was so exhausting. I would not recommend to anyone, but it was really fun because I learned a lot from that. And then Creator Camp just came out more recently and was more of like the main focus. But it's always been fun to, I don't know, I found running businesses or like trying to do something like that, like it's been really fun. And I think like it started with that like thing in high school I did with like selling the coins and that sort of thing, where it's kind of like, oh, the possibility is there to like do it.
You make it sound like it's like some crypto that you're like.
Yeah, it sounds so sketch, but basically it's like selling like FIFA coins, basically. Like that's sort of the vibe. And like
I'm getting CS:GO skin kind of
that's
vibe.
What, it was like for cheap, reliable coins, go to this. And I was like sponsoring all these like 13-year-olds who were making videos on Madden Mobile at the time. It was crazy. It was like, but it was fun. And so I think like through that, I often think I refer back to this, like, this is kind of where luck plays in. I refer back to this. They did the study about like rats, and this was fucked up, but like they put them in water until they like gave up. I'm not sure if they died or they just like saved them. But anyways, the craziest thing was like they put them in water until they like gave up, but then for some of them they put them in water, then after a certain amount of time they took them out, and then they put them back, and the rats that were taken out of the water and put back, like they kept swimming for like 10x the amount of time, And so the reason why I say that is because I feel like with a lot of this stuff, if you get lucky early or you get like a taste of success, like you will work way harder because you know it's there. And so that's kind of the same thing where I think like for the Mad Mobile Coin stuff, it was like very much like, oh, this will work. So now I'll spend the next 10 years of my life, like, you know, doing something like that, for better or for worse. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy because like this is a bit of, I'm about to drop some lore that I don't think anyone probably knows in my life apart from my parents.
Exclusive.
I used to run a clothing brand as well. It was not good. It was basically drop shipping, like kind of because it was like the print on demand stuff. But I used to do that. I think I made like $1,000 off it, and that was like sick. It. So who knows? Maybe I'll get back into the business thing kind of down the line. But I want to really like dive into Creator Camp because I really love what you guys are doing. To be completely honest, I think it's what we've needed for a long time. But why did you think the world needed it?
Yeah, I think the world needed it because, well, in the beginning, I wasn't thinking about the world, to be honest. I was very selfish of like, I'm lonely in my room, like watching my friends go back to college and party and whatever. And I'm making videos in my parents' house. And so I think it was like, I need this personally, being from a smaller town in Michigan. And so, yeah, and it was a complete accident. Like, we didn't want it to be a business at first. Actually, one of the craziest takes I had was in that first Discord call. I'm like, yeah, guys, like, I don't know if I want to bring in sponsors or like make this bigger. Like, I'd rather have it just be like a personal group trip thing. But then you kind of see the impact and sort of like this idea that like Brian Eno has this quote where it's like all great movements in art or in history are championed by an individual, but like they're created by communities. And so I think that was really enticing of like, actually, if you build this backbone for artists in the modern world, like so much good comes out of it. And we've seen people like collaborate and make new stuff and push themselves. And I think that's so necessary, I think, in a world that doesn't value the art to the degree that it should be. And so that's why I felt like it was very necessary. And then it kind of evolved into like, okay, like let's build this community. And then like, all right, it's actually very necessary in like further applicators like the film industry and that sort of thing. But even like going to the event, I was at this event with my friend Aiden like yesterday, shout out Aiden a few days ago. And it was very nice because it was like seeing that community and how much it meant to people here in Australia. And like, yeah, that was special. And I think like for to be honest, like the main reason it was necessary in the beginning was because just loneliness and just like wanting to meet new people and make friends and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I feel like that's such a common theme through like my content, your content, like Aiden, who we mentioned, his content, like it's all about like feeling lonely as a creator and wanting to build that community. What was like the first point though, where you went, oh, this is more than just a bunch of friends hanging out. Like this can be this, and you may not have seen like Camp Studios, but when did you see, oh, this has a future?
Yeah, so the crazy thing about Creator Camp, it was ran for 2 years as like, it was so hard. It was like a nonprofit, it was losing money. We actually put a lot of money personally into it. But we kept doing it because we were like, there's something special here. To your point, like there was something there. So we are just like, we need to keep doing this. And it was in this idea that like in one room you have like a musician, a painter, a film director, a DP, a photographer, and they're all talking and everyone feels energized by each other and they go out and collaborate and make things that wouldn't have existed. Something about that is so special. And kind of seeing everyone grow over the years and that sort of thing. So I think it was just that. It was like, it's like a feeling in the air, or it's like something you feel in your gut where you're like, okay, like we got to keep doing this no matter how hard it is. And so, yeah, that's kind of why. It was just, you can't really boil it down to something necessarily like explainable, but I think there are points where you just feel something so strongly. And so it was at those initial events where it's like, oh crap, like this is everything. Like we need to keep doing this. There's no excuse. Like, and so that's kind of when it was like the first event, honestly, or even in Montana when we're editing in the morning and we're talking and we're getting feedback to each other over the shoulder. And like, I'd never done that before. And so like, that was very special, that level of camaraderie.
Would you say those like 2 years where you were operating as a nonprofit, was that the hardest point, or have there been like other like really
Yeah.
massive challenges in kind of building this. I don't know if I want to call it a business because it feels like it's more than that. Like it feels like it's a collective. Oh no, I don't like that either.
Yeah,
But
no, I
like, what
appreciate
were the
that.
hard points on this road to get where you guys are now?
I think it actually gets harder. The beginning, like a lot of stuff with events, like event planning will always go wrong. So we had a lot of like crazy stuff happen. Just like last minute changes, natural disasters. Like we do a joke where it's like something bad will happen every time, like a natural disaster. Like
Has there been multiple natural
like
disasters?
like record snows in Utah. It was crazy. We had
Oh
to
my
like
goodness.
find people. Like I had to knock on this guy's truck that he was in his driveway and tell him like, yo, we'll pay you $100 to like bring everyone's stuff down. Like it's all this stuff. And so like that was really hard, like physically and like mentally. I think like the festival, like putting that together was very ambitious, and that was like super draining for the whole team. That's probably the hardest part recently. But it's always hard. Like I think it's actually like constantly difficult, and it's almost like you have these moments of like elation because you got over the hard thing, and I feel like there's nothing better than getting over a difficult thing. It's like pushing across a big project with your friends, like that sort of feeling. Those relationships deepen. But yeah, it's definitely event planning, and then figuring out for like 2 years we had no business model, understanding like how this thing will ever make money, and so we're like, well, we'll just keep operating like this and hope it works out. And that's kind of when we had dropped out of school and stuff, so it's like, okay, like let's push all the chips to the center. And so there's a lot of mental load there. But yeah, it's like both the feeling of just anxiousness and like, are we going to be able to do it? And then the feeling of like, I'm physically just gassed from these events for a while. Yeah.
Are you still feeling that kind of question post Camp Studios, which we'll talk about in a bit? But are you still feeling that feeling of, oh, I don't know if this is going to work?
No, I feel really confident. To be
Hell
honest.
yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, I think like for so long people are like, you should start an agency or a talent management company, but that never felt right because you're just like kind of becoming another thing that exists. And the film route is like, the more we look into it, the more exciting it is and the more impossible it seems. But the most impactful thing I think we could do is kind of move towards a film route. So I feel pretty confident. Obviously, like it's going to come with very difficult moments, and I'm sure like there'll be moments in that where it's like, oh, you're wavering in your faith for it. But yeah, right now in this moment, I think feel really good about it. Yeah.
Just before we jump into Camp Studios, like you're working with people who are like, and were your friends. Is that ever like, how do you navigate that? Because that seems like a tricky situation to be like so close with your people and then go into a business where you have disagreements and you have to like figure stuff out that is hard.
Yeah, it's like being married, like literally.
Have you been married?
No, but this is what I imagine being in like a polyamorous like relationship is like. I
Okay,
think,
fair enough.
yeah.
Like, look, hey, look,
Like
you heard it here first.
I think being in a business with your friends like strips you down to the core of like, you need to understand any little feeling, why you feel that way, and you need to communicate it. I think I'm someone who pushes things down and doesn't communicate them. I think like a lot of businesses you hear about like the screaming matches between co-founders and stuff like that. We're not like that really. I actually think we need to get into more disagreements because I think we're people that like hold things and then it kind of bubbles up. So honestly, it's just about having like these conversations. I think the highs are higher, the lows are lower for sure. But honestly, it's not, I don't think it's as difficult as people sometimes set it out to be, or like being in a business with your friends. I actually think it's better than being in business with someone who's not your friend and you're just kind of like, just business partners or objectively working together in that way. It's been, it's been fun, honestly. Yeah.
No, that's really good. Speaking of friends, I'm going to do a banger segue right
Let's
now.
go.
But speaking
Banger
of friends,
segue going.
there was a lot of friends and a lot of people at your Camp Studios event. I'm like really sad I didn't get to go. I was like so bummed. A bunch of my mates went and they were so stoked. Like Aiden went, Sean went. Everyone I've talked to has not stopped yapping about how like amazing it was. So I just want to like give you guys, like you and the rest of your team, such like a massive props for pulling something off like that, because that's crazy.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Obviously, like you've really talked about how like you see this kind of cam studios and like the films being like kind of the future of where art can kind of live. Do you think there's also a place where you can build a space for like art to live on the internet and be sustainable? Because like that's like a hard thing to like make money off your art.
Honestly, like I think there are ways to do it. Like if you think about it, we talked about this, but the whole concept of what is so interesting to us is that like a video, one view on any video is priced the same. So like a how-to video versus a yes theory video. And I think the only ways people have been able to capture that extra value that they're providing through their art is through like businesses and like clothing brands. I think the only way to like capture that extra, or the best way, is the in-person experience. And I feel like that's so much in Creator Camp's DNA, is providing that in-person experience. I think like there are tools like people have Patreons or people run businesses, stuff like that helps do that. But I actually think the future of, it's weird, but the future of the internet and internet filmmaking is in person, in my opinion.
Oh, that's good. That's a good line.
And so like I feel like if there was a way to make art super like there already are ways to make it sustainable on just online, but I think there's so much more that artists could gain from putting their stuff, whether it's pop-ups in theaters, like gathering people around media, because that's what people have been doing for like the entire history of humanity, is like gathering on artistic mediums. And I think it's time for people to start treating the stuff that's on the internet not just as this stuff that's like on the internet in this realm that doesn't infiltrate our real lives, and bring it to everyone's real lives. Yeah.
What are the kind of ways that you see doing this? Because obviously you've financed these films, you've talked about kind of getting them now into like more theaters and like maybe onto streaming services. What are the other ways that you kind of want to start building this in real life internet? I don't know what the term, we need to figure out like a good name for this, but
100%.
What are the other ways you want to kind of do that as well?
I think like the film festival is huge because it's like a cultural point where like everyone can gather who is doing this. I was talking to a friend last week, and the part that's like super exciting about these films is like you never go to a movie theater and go like, I could do that. It's like you're watching Mission Impossible, you're like, all right, this is sick, but like
I feel caught out.
yeah, you love those movies, but they're great movies. But you go and watch it and you're like, okay, like this was done on $500 million, like I can't do that. But the thing about like internet films or films from creatives is like you go to the movies and all of a sudden there's this other narrative of you can see yourself in it. And I think that's like such a beautiful thing, that for us it's like, how can we be the first company to really champion and push through like this idea of like creator films and do it right. But the idea isn't for us to be the only pipeline for a creator to like get their stuff into theaters. Like ideally, if the first few films we do well, like all of a sudden the whole industry is going to pay attention, and all of a sudden creators will be getting more opportunities, whether or not from us. So we kind of see it as like unlocking the doors of inspiring a lot of other people to go out and like make this happen, or just like make this path like sustainable. And so I think that's the exciting part, where it's like also a movement where it's not just us who's doing it, but if we can do it right, then like everyone's going to start getting these opportunities, which is like the super exciting thing. Like who knows, like in 5-10 years you might have 1,000 films from 1,000 creators come out, and they're like shown around the world, and people are gathering around these experiences, and that's like a beautiful thing, and they're getting some more upside, and their art is sustainable because of it. So that's super exciting.
So do you kind of almost see like having like multiple creator fests like happening around the kind of globe, like maybe on a smaller scale, like as a way to kind of start building this up? Because at the moment, like it is so centralized to America. Like for me, one of the big reasons I couldn't go is flights are expensive,
it's
man.
Like 24 hours to get there.
Like, how do you see like getting this into the rest of the world, like Europe and Australia?
Yeah,
and
I think
Asia
it'd be great to do film festivals everywhere. I think of Beau Miles, who's a creative here in Australia who like screens his films in theaters before they go on YouTube. And yeah, it's interesting because at the end of the day, the exciting part is how can we get more creators to make stuff and get them into theaters. And I think wherever the film fest happens, wherever, you know, the first films are made or distributed, like any creator will be able to do that. And I think that's the coolest thing, is like, how do you create basically just knock down the barrier and be like, okay, like the actual upcoming talents on the internet, like even for studios potentially to go out and be like, hey, you know, Sky, I saw your stuff online, like we're gonna help fund your pilot or something like that. Like if that starts happening more, it's like all of a sudden now that pilot's, you know, in Sydney and you do a premiere and people show up, like I think that will happen. And so like I don't think that's necessarily bound to like a region per se, because you can get found from making stuff from anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing about the internet. Yeah, is like there's people who watch my videos, and you probably had the same.
Yeah.
It's like they're from a country I've never heard of, and I'm like, that's so sick. It is really cool that you kind of bring up like the studios and stuff getting into this, because Peacock has like started recently doing a bunch of creative stuff. I need to like. It's really hard to get a subscription to that stuff here because Peacock doesn't exist.
Peacock doesn't exist here?
No, man. We got any streaming services here. It's a wild west. But yeah, I really want to watch that stuff. It's really cool, to see some of the industry embracing it. I think it's like the big movie studios like Warner Bros. I'm trying to name other ones and they've all left my head right now.
Yeah.
But getting them to kind of spend less money on stuff that will probably make them more money, but just on a smaller scale. So
yeah,
I feel like it's this big cultural shift that needs to happen, and it's cool that you guys are kind of spearheading it. Obviously, like this is very like focused on film.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see like any other forms of art? Like, are you going to try and focus on those as well, or are you guys kind of like, let's do film, let's make that happen. Maybe we'll do these other things later.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of debates about this actually. Like, we've talked about it a lot, like doing like a music festival, that sort of stuff. I think like at its core, like at the film festival, we had musicians performing and all that stuff, but those musicians are also the musicians that scored stuff for the films. I think we're gonna focus on film first because it's the most collaborative artistic thing where you can have, you know, for the film festivals, we hired different designers to do the designs for the merchandise and the title cards and the posters. And then we had musician creators like score all the films and that sort of things. We had DPs and cinematographers, and we had like writers working on the writing. And so I think like for us, it's how do we make that process the most collaborative it can be and bring in people who are experts in their own mediums who have got that internet DNA in them. And then also like the part that made, I think, the film festival really impactful for people was not only the films, but like the workshops. And like we had people like doing stop motion animation and like doing art and sketchbooks and those sort of things. And I think that's also like super important because it's sort of like supporting the broader creative ecosystem. Like it's cool if you're like, it would suck to me, it would be a L if like everyone that came to the film festival was just like film, instead of some people who came because they wanted to see the workshops and learn and get hands-on and do crafts and that sort of thing. So I think it'll always be, like the focus will be film, but what's built around that is this ecosystem to support like all different creatives.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you're not just like focusing on film as it is like building like a crew. Like it's like, yeah, you're getting these designers, you're getting people to score like all these other peripheral things, I guess, to film. Yeah, it is a really great way to like bring as many creative people together as kind of possible with the films. Like props to you guys for like pulling that off. Like that is a lot of stuff to make and all go right, and like crews and everything to like have it all work. How's the distribution of that going? Like that seems like a very tough thing to have to do.
Yeah. No, it's first off, like it's also like props to the filmmakers because this is their first time doing it. They had 100 days to write, shoot, edit.
That's
it was crazy. It went down to the last moment. It was insane. I think that was a crazy timeline, but it was really inspiring to see people spend all their time on something when they didn't have to. It's not rational. They could have made videos and got to millions of people, but instead they like prioritize these 1,200 people at the festival, which is like so cool. And that's great. The distribution of them. So kind of what we're doing is for the feature, like in the next, half year, next year is like the goal is to like get that distributed. We're adapting one of them. Some of them will be going to like film festivals. I think like, yes, we want to go more non-traditional, but it's up to the filmmakers. Like if they want to go to like a festival, I think there's always those benefits. And then we're talking with people like Tubi, those sort of folks to like get distribution. And like part of like the initial distribution as well for the first 30 days was like launching with Patreon, like, hey, we can do this live thing. So we did a live version of the festival, which a few hundred people turned up to, which was great. And so like, yeah, I'm interested because it's all like kind of A/B testing in a way. Like yes, we did this, but some will go to festivals, some will, you know, go on this platform, some will do this, that sort of thing. And we're kind of just seeing what opportunities are available and how we can just like push them out there. And so that's kind of the idea of like, maybe we end up realizing that like it's more impactful for them to just be on YouTube, you know, for free. Maybe we realize like, oh, you do the windowing in Patreon, or you do like another pop-up in New York where you screen all of them. So a lot of this is still like exploratory for the shorts, especially.
You should come do a pop-up.
Yeah, do a pop-up.
I'm just biased,
Listen,
but like, hey,
yeah,
it would
yeah,
go
yeah.
off.
100%.
I guarantee. Looking forward past these kind of films and their distribution, when you guys kind of get to the next set of like, do you want to fund more films? Like, is that the kind of next step after this?
Yeah, for sure. I think like that is the idea, is just to continue to do this, do more festivals, like fund more creatives. Like we're realizing there's power in the team. And so like, actually the exciting part is bringing together like a team, like a specific director, actors, musicians, and then like having them work on multiple things, which is exciting. But yeah, we just want to basically like be able to fund as many projects, turn them into features, that sort of thing, as humanly possible. And so that's kind of where we're like trying to crack the economic model of like, if this feature can work, if it could even break even. I think all of a sudden there's a model there, and you can rinse and repeat and just provide these opportunities to all these creatives. And like, all of a sudden, like that's when the key is unlocked. And so it's definitely like locking in on these first few films we do. But yeah, after that, it's like the floodgates are open, and how can we fund as many stories as possible, for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like you're going to start operating as like a mini, like proper studio. Well, I guess you guys are a proper studio. You funded films, but like as a mini version of how the big studios operate, like make a film, make a bunch of money, feed it into the next one.
Exactly.
But I think the important thing is that you guys have the focus on allowing these smaller creators to tell stories, and you don't care about like making $1 billion every film. You're like, no, this just needs to fund the next film or the next like 2 films. With finding creators to like make these things, do you think there's a world where you start taking like pitches from people? Like, say I have an idea for a film, can people like send like, where's that going to go?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Like that's the idea. I mean, like what was cool about the festival is now you can see a lot of creators being like, I want to do film, like who didn't even think about it before. Like they're like, okay, I'll just do brand deals and like, yeah,
That's like literally the
no,
thought I
really,
had.
yeah. So I think that's also the encouraging part about shifting cultures. All of a sudden, like you have this like step beyond, where a lot of like these creators are stuck doing brand deals and like have done it, but like what the heck is next and what do they want to do? And so all of a sudden there's this like the fog is lifted, and there's like more. It's like the DLC just dropped. The career like creator DLC just dropped.
Bro just brought it back to the gaming. It's full circle, man.
Yeah, but it's almost like the DLC just dropped, where it's like, okay, there's this world beyond, where I think the most exciting part is like creators for so long have been valued on your following. It's like you go to a brand, they'll value on your CPM based on your following. What I found hard when I dropped out of college is like, oh, if I studied engineering, computer science, and dropped out, like I have a hard skill. I can be an engineer. I can code. But I dropped out and I like make these videos. Like for some reason, like it's hard to value those skills as hard skills, but they are hard skills. And so for a lot of like this stuff, it's really exciting because all of a sudden you value a creator, not just for their audience, but for their ability to be a great DP. You value this creator on their ability to be a great writer. Because you're basically saying they've had to face the fire in posting stuff constantly, getting people to pay attention. Like they have been through the ringer. They're super experienced. Like you are valuable for your hard skill, not just your distribution and audience. And so I think that's also exciting, where it's like, how can we validate more creators to be like, no, like what I've learned through making videos is like really valuable to the world, you know? And so like, yeah, I think that's part of the culture shift of like, how do we get creators to who have wanted to become directors or wanted to become DPs, just haven't had a path to start thinking about it. And so, yeah, to your point, I think like that'll be something we open up is like, how can we start doing things like maybe the next film festival, there's a spot where we like, someone throws in a pitch and then we do that and like that sort of thing. Like we want to really do more stuff like that for sure.
No, I love that. Kind of wrapping up this section on like camp studios, creator camp, all that kind of stuff. Next 5 years for both creator camp and camp studios, like where do you want to see it in that 5 years?
I think it's all in the films and seeing this cultural movement happen where creators can make great films. I think when you think of creator films in the past, It's been like throw Logan Paul as an actor, and it's been their acting and like their following. But like
His movie
now,
was not good.
Yeah, like the plane one they did or whatever. But it's like that's historically what creative films have been. But I think there's still so much understanding or misunderstanding and dissonance between when people hear creator to what they think. And so to be able to show, no, there are these really talented people on the internet that are making great stuff and prove that the internet is the greatest film school. I think that is like super exciting. And so it's more of like the cultural shift of like, how do we start is just by like really working hard on these films and getting them out, and then hopefully creating a system for that. And it's almost like creating a sustainable model for the art is the most exciting part, where, you know, maybe the next Yes Theory doesn't have to build a Seek Discomfort because they can put their next each film in theaters and make X amount of money, and they don't need to build a business, because every creator has been told you have to build a business to make it sustainable. Like, what if the art itself could be sustainable? I think that's the most exciting thing.
That's the dream, right? Yeah. All right. We've got a little fun section at the end, but before we get there, I got to hit you with like a few really deep, like emotional stuff, because at the start of this podcast, I need like that juicy, like clickbait, like, you know, the really hyped, like pace intro. What is the biggest lesson you have learned from building these kind of businesses?
There's this graph that I go to a lot. I forget what it's called, but I'll send it to you afterwards. It like goes, it's like a universal graph where it goes up and then down, and it's like you have the valley of despair and then like the I forget what it's called, like the delusional peak or whatever. And I think that's like, that's been the life. That's been the life. And I think that's so true even in any point in life that I've really had to learn is like running a business with your friends, like the highs are high and the lows are low, so you can really feel them. But like understanding where you are on that curve is super helpful. I think either Tim Ferriss had it on his blog or someone had it where it's like you will pull something off, feel really excited, feel over the moon, and then it'll get hard. And then here you can either crash and burn or you can like go back up. I think that's something that's been really helpful for me to see a lot. And I think the other part is like all this is just, it's a win to, and we were talking about this other day, it's like a win to keep doing the thing. And I have to always remind myself this. Like, I used to have a lot of money anxiety dropping out of school and being a kid of immigrant parents, and like I was so anxious about money, but then I realized like it's just runway. As long as you have runway to keep doing the thing you're doing, like that is the biggest W in the world. Like if you're able to do a creative thing that or whatever it could be, like something you love, or pursue that in some capacity, and you have the privilege to do that, like every day you wake up and are able to do that, that's such a big W. And so I think that's been really helpful. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's just such like a gamer thing to say.
But that is so, we're doing the gamer terms today.
That is so true. Yeah. I think a lot of us, don't remember that. Whether like you're supporting yourself like full-time work, like kind of I do, or like, you know, you've got a small business like my friend Phoebe, or like you're kind of making it now with your own business. Like, it's so important to remember, those like wins every day.
Yeah. Like every day you can keep doing it is so valuable. Like that's so sick. And I think, like I've struggled a lot with like, even this trip, I've been like, damn, like you have to remind yourself who you are and what you're capable of. And like, you have to tell yourself like, I'm proud of you so much. I have this like note, cause like last week, I was like in a low point where I was like, oh shit, like crap, like I'm doing this video in Australia. I'm here, like I'm far away from the boys. Like we're coming back, we're doing all this stuff. Like I'm a little uncertain. And so I wrote this note where it's like, literally like, remember who you are. This is what you've done. This is what you're going to do. Like you're doing it. You're good. And so like, I think that's been really helpful too. A lot of it's just like so emotional, but I think that's a big lesson I've learned too, is just like every day you show up and you're able to do the thing. It's like such a win. Like that deserves to be celebrated. It's the act of like existing and proving that like someone like you can exist in the world. Like someone that like is doing creative work that's in Australia is like able to do it, like is such a W. And so I think that's like really fun to, super important to remind yourself.
All right. One more deep emotional question. What do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, it doesn't really have anything to do with like Creative Camp or any of the videos or anything like that. I think it would be cool to like just have really great relationships with friends and like be known to be someone who people can go to and be open with and that sort of thing. And I think that's more of like the personal thing I think of is like, how do you just be known to be a good person? I remember like in high school, like when I was first making videos, I actually like didn't feel like I was a good person, or like some point in high school, I was like, I'm not a good person. Like I'm not blah blah. But there are a few friends of mine. I think of like my friend Nick, who's actually in this video I'm posting. I never told him this. I should tell him this. I was like, I'm trying to be more like him. And then like I met my other friend Jeffrey Sun. He's such a nice guy.
Oh,
and I'm like, I want to be more like him.
legend. Love him.
And so I think just like to always be pursuing like just being a nice person and like trying to really live that, I think, and put in that effort, like just to be known in that way or just to like live it is like what I've been really inspired to do with my life. So yeah.
Well, I can, having spent like I guess almost a day now, including this time here with you. You are genuinely like such a lovely person. Like
Thank you.
The crazy thing when we were like hanging out, and I was talking to Phoebe, my friend, about this, is you have this ability. Like for me in that situation, I feel like I'm kind of the nobody because I'm a little creator, like no one knows who I am. But I look at you and you're like, you've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers. You're running this business that everyone I know knows about. And yet the entire time we're hanging out, you would not stop asking me questions. And that is like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is the most down-to-earth, genuine guy. So I think with a lot of confidence, I think you've done what you've set out to do.
I'm working on it. Yeah, for sure.
You're doing good, man. You're doing good.
Yeah, that was great too. We were flowing. It was a great conversation. Like I was locked in there and it was.
Bro, apart from when you needed a nap.
Yeah. And then I was like, I need to go home. So this is hitting me, but it was really nice. And I don't know. I think like, yeah, I value that conversation a lot. It was very great. So yeah, it was fun.
I also value when fans of this podcast that doesn't exist send me. Sorry, this is a terrible segue.
If you're a fan, tap in.
No. But we did get a couple of questions from. I say fans. Producer, can you grab me my envelope of questions? My 2 questions.
Producer,
Woo! Thanks. So we have the fan mail.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah, I did this in about 5 minutes before I left.
Let's go.
All right. These are both from our mutual friend, Caleb Shaw.
No way, Caleb.
I know. Hey, shout out. He's making a short film at the moment,
Yeah,
which I'm so keen to see. All right. First one. Why did you drop the wholesome from Wholesome Simon?
Ooh, that's a great one. I knew Caleb asked that. Because I think there's like, at a certain point, I'm like, there's nothing more cringe than like self-proclaiming yourself as wholesome. Also, like, I just became older and I was like, dang, like, I don't know. It just felt cringe and didn't feel like me. And I was like, I'm growing out of it. And so I was like, let me hunt down this Instagram handle. And I, like, this old dude with like his kids and I was FaceTiming him. He was actually in Australia and I got the Instagram handle from him. But I think like, no, to be honest, like, I think I have had to, in the last 2 or 3 years, I was talking to Aiden about this, like, really look myself in the mirror. And I think for the first time, like, be like, okay, like, I've made mistakes in my life, like real mistakes with like implications, that sort of thing, and haven't like lived up to my standard of like who I am and like realized my own imperfections. And I think through that, I was like, it feels weird to say I'm like a wholesome guy because it's like that's assuming you're this person, but like I'm a human that's like imperfect and has flaws, and I'm like, this is me. And so I felt like it was time to do that, and it felt like a good time to like switch it up.
No, that's a good, concise answer. All right, last one from Caleb. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but you can go a bit more into it. How and why did you get involved with Sunny Day, your coffee business?
No, it was just Brian, like mentor I'd known for a while. I actually like met him through Yes Theory because he ran Seek Discomfort for a while.
And so, full circle,
yeah,
man.
It's always like full circle to
connected.
Yes Theory. It's actually crazy. But yeah, he's just like a really great guy, and like we get to talking and he's like, I want you to be a part of this sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, it was a very easy decision. I mean, like he's a great guy. He like cares so deeply about the work he does. He's a family man. He just had a kid, Sunny. She is adorable, and like, yeah, I think it was more of like it's sort of a friend thing where it was like, okay, like, yeah, Sunny Days. And it's so cool because I think a lot of my stuff, when we talk about that shift from like purely like mental health related content to like traveling and reflect on my own life, I think like what I latched onto was like nature and like getting outdoors. And that was the thing I was like, oh shit, like if I can give anyone any sort of semblance of advice, it'd be like go outside. And so I think he very much lived that lifestyle and wanted to push that through Sunny Day, and that got me really hyped because like that's what really helped me is getting outside and going on nature and going doing these hikes and camping and road tripping. And so like it was very much aligned there.
No, I love that. All right. I would like one recommendation for your favorite piece of media right now, whether it's like a film, piece of music, like even a photo. Like what is one thing you've really enjoyed?
I love this because we watched it yesterday with Aiden. It's my friend Brad Radio. He made this video called For Winona. It's 30 minutes long. It's a whole doc. It's this film about him making a play talking about a relationship that didn't happen, but then he like had people act it out. But then it's just like this incredible film. I love Brad. I think he's the most talented creator on the internet. It has 2,000 views. The thing is, he does not care about views or anything like that. And I'm just so inspired by him every day. He's the first person I met online as like an internet friend. I look up to him a lot. And I think like if anyone sits down and puts this video up on their TV and like really locks in for 30 minutes, they'll leave feeling incredibly inspired. So like I always go back to his films when I need something to watch or feel inspired. And so I couldn't recommend that more.
I love that. That's a banger recommendation.
Yeah, I'm a Brad
keen to watch
Glazer,
that.
dude. Like,
hey,
I'll
you
glaze
got to
that
get in.
man
I'll
up,
put it.
bro.
I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah,
it's going to
yeah.
be somewhere around here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our time. I want to say thank you for sitting down. Like
Thank you, Sky. This is so
first
sick.
guest. Hey, crazy first guest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been good, and we're probably going to do this again when you do your next creator camp event, because hopefully
yeah.
I'll be at the next one.
Yeah.
We can sit down on a stage and do
There
it
we
live for the
go.
audience. Hey. All right, man. Well,
Heck yeah.
peace out.
Thank you.
I don't know
Thank
how
you,
to end
Sky.
this.
Like, subscribe, comment,
I should
tap
probably-
in.
I don't even think about that anymore.
What's
All
up,
right.
guy?
I'll see you guys in the next one.
Ooh.